I'm so glad you are with me on this video. Thanks for joining me. I will be your instructor. My name is IG, and in today's video, we're going to be studying economics, and we're actually going to be on this aspect of the introductory um, teachings. And well, straight to what I have on the board. On the board, what I've done is to have this particular video divided by way of frames, and I have 5 frames in this particular video. And as you could see, the first frame is about what is economics. I want to have a kind of introduction into what is economics. And thereafter, we'll move to divisions of economics. The third frame is on why study economics. Then thereafter, we look at key concepts of economics. And at the tail end of the frame, we have the basic economic problems of man and society. So let's get along. All right, so we are in frame one, and frame one is about what is economics. And here we're going to have a look into the definitions, the definition of economics. Economics have had numerous definitions over the years, but today's video is going to be concentrating more on definition by two great economists. And the first is the man often regarded as the father of the subject's economics, Adam Smith. All right, so he had to define economics by his own way of perspective, and that the second definition is by Leonard Robbins. Now, looking first at Adam Smith's definition, he said economics is an inquiry into the nature and causes of wealth of nations. So Adam Smith pointed out that the reason why one nation we tend to be richer than another nation could be well traced to and explained by way of their wealth, the wealth priorities, the wealth decisions that are made. So he pointed out that one nation could have well created and accumulated more wealth, and as a result of this, it could have created more riches for those nations than other ones whose creation and accumulation of wealth is on a low key. So that was by Adam Smith. Well, his definition came in 1776. That's a very long one, but it was a very foundational definition, making us to see a new discipline emerged, the Soviet economics, because it was able to see and explain to the world that there's a need to have a separate subject area of economics other than other social science related discipline that were already um, um, in existence, like political science. So thereafter, in talking about Leonard Robbins' definition, which actually came in 1932, Leonard Robbins said that economics is a science which study human behavior as a relationship between ends and scarce means which have alternative uses. That's sweet. And that's definition that has, you know, evolved this subject of economics from the days of Adam Smith. He has made us to see that as far as economics is concerned, we also must look at our choices, all right, based on the fact that we have limited resources. And these choices are what will enable us to determine the level of our economic utilities, all right. And then we must not also leave out a more modern view of economics. And so in the more modern view of economics, economics could be said to be the science of growth and efficiency. I repeat that economics is the science of growth and efficiency. I need you to pen that down as we continue in this subject, economics. All right, so take notes of what I've said and let's continue. Okay, so we are in frame two, and frame two is on divisions of economics. Frame two is division of economics. Now, economics as a subject is broadly divided into two. So we have microeconomics and the second, macroeconomics. Now, this is interesting, and it could well be explained or well illustrated by seeing it as though one is studying a tree on one note in a forest. You're studying a tree, meaning you're focusing on one particular tree as within several other trees in the forest. So while we're on one tree kind of studying, is more or less on a small note. And so having to do with one little thing or small as it is what we could refer to as on the micro note. But when we're looking at the forest generally, I'm just using this as way of explaining. All right, looking at the entire forest and you want to have more understanding of the forest, yeah, you are looking at something really broad because I go with several trees you will go to look into. And so on the same notes, the study of economics have this division so that we could like on one note focus on the small um, perspective that has to do with what we refer to based on what I've explained here. I told us that microeconomics studies the economic choices. Remember the aspect of choice? The economic choices and behavior of individual households and firms. We're going to get more understanding of all of this later on. And then this is clustered as small units. So while we're on the note of looking at how the household make their choices, how a particular household how to make choices by way of the limited income it has, then and then look at a firm. Why did a firm have to venture into a particular industry or into a particular business activity? Why didn't that business? Why didn't that firm decide to go into something as an alternative? So trying to explain all of that and having more understanding of choices and decisions made by these small units, whether on the note of household or firms, that is the area of concentration of microeconomics. So that's for your understanding. Then macroeconomics, as it is, it studies the economic performance and choices of industries and society. Of course, industry, just for your knowing for now, we're going to see have more insight into this as we continue in these teachings. The industries are the sum or aggregation of firms. So while we are studying about industry, we are studying several firms of different types of industries. So the way they are making their choices, the way they are acting and making decisions, we'll get to see that later. And then we also said and society. So this also we could see this as a large unit compared to the earlier ones, which are small units. So on this note, economics have these two major parts. So take notes, and then we're going to get more as per what and what topics areas that directly falls within. All right, so we are here in frame theory now, and for this particular frame of study, we want to look at why study economics. Okay, so here we want to really dive in, knowing how economics have um, helped us in terms of its importance, acquiring the knowledge of economics. Now, so I have on the board five importance of economic studies. So for you, um, my wonderful viewer, you're going to have this as a benefit going into this particular series of videos with me and as students of economics. These are key benefits to be derived from this study. Now, I need you to understand that, like I've done, I've made it some the note of personal gains and as well as much of societal gain. So economics has fed both we as individuals and the general society as a whole. So first on my list, I had the economic study help us to understand how choices are made by economic agents. Of course, in previous video, I made us to see the relevance of choices. I came through the insights we derived from the definition of Leonard Robbins when he says his study of as a relationship between ends and scarce means which have alternative uses. Now, those terms of ends and means, we're going to get more insight and explanation in our next video. Now, for the now, choice is so paramount in our daily lives. So, how choices are being made by various agencies um, within the framework of our societies is what economists help to understand. So, on one note, why would a particular firm de- decide to invest into manufacturing and not into um, power sector, for example? Why will a particular company, business company, decide to be interested in having high price at certain season and low price at other season? What are the reason behind all of these differences in choice? So we get, by way of economic studies, we get to have more insight into this, more insight into all this. So it's so beneficial to for the economics students to see that economics really enhances this. So understanding choices made by economic agent. Now, second to that, I said it enhances critical thinking based on limited resources. Definitely, we know the first major problems, the first major problem of man and society is scarcity. We have limitations. There are several things we desire to have, but the resources to acquire them are not that much. They are limited. So now it's also will be important for economic agents, for example, an individual whose resources as fast, we're talking about resources like his income, is not able to meet all his wants, then he needs to have a really thorough thinking, really thorough mindset and understanding of how he's going to use his limited resources in striving to satisfy his unlimited desires. So that's a whole lot of work to do. So by way of income study, we get more understanding of how I strive to do this. Now, in the third importance, we have it developed versatile analytical skills, highly valued in a changing world. Now, the world you and I, we are in is changing at every instance. And these changes are going to be continual. Changes like a new job just got established, whereas an old existing job have just exited. So you have this changing. A lot of policies are taking place that is creating changes. International trade policies are changing. So many things are happening around the world, and these happenings are creating the need for us to know the aftermath, the consequences, the effects of what these changes is going to lead to as it affects our daily lives as we continue. So, by way of economic study, it's an eye opener for us to see, to have this kind of analytical kind of skill. It's a very personal skill. By way of a student, being a student of economics, you develop it. So it's nice to know that that happens. Then, in the fourth angle, I said to predict future challenges and opportunities. Of course, I just mentioned, for instance, international trade policies are changing from one nation to another. And this affects a lot of economic activities. It affects even the individual in various nations, outside these nations that are changing their policies. So, for that reason, it's valuable to know that we can forecast, we can have a kind of a foreknowledge of what these effects of these changes that are occurring, the challenges that are there, and as well the opportunities that comes alongside the challenges. So nice to know that too. Then I said in the last point that by way of studying economics, it helps to understand various economic, social, and political agencies. All right, agencies. So there are many agencies that are tied up to economic policies. So economic study creates an avenue for us to see the various institutions as well as referring to them as agencies that are linked to our economic life. Because if we look at ourselves, we are an economic man, we could say. And these are agencies that influences and affects our daily lives. So these are for the now very important summary of the importance of studying economics. So I believe you are really gained a lot from this. Good to know that. Thank you. Okay, so finally, we are in the fifth and final frame of this particular teaching. Oh, thank you. Now, in the fifth frame, we are looking at the basic economic problems of man and society. Now, I've written on this board the two fundamental problems of man: scarcity problems and that of choice problems. Of course, we have established that already by saying that human wants are unlimited, but the means are limited. So that there's a limitation, and that limitation implies a scarcity problem for man. So man now need to strive to provide solution, or better still, strive to make the most out of his limited resources. Then the instance of choice, in the instance, for example, having to have a land that have competing ends. Take the instance of a land. A land can be used for residential, can be used for farming. On a land, you can also set up a factory, a business unit. So there are several usage of a land. So on the note of that, there's a need for man to what? To make a particular choice amongst these several alternatives. So this creates and implies that we do have these two fundamental problems, which actually result to more economic related problem. All right. So what I'm going to do in the next instance of the video is just to climax it with questions for you, just to test your um, your knowledge of how well you follow the series. Let me see how well you could perform if you were to write an exam or a test. So let's go on and see you take a test based on your viewership of everything. Thank you. All right, so great to be with you for this final thing. And the final note is on testing your knowledge of everything you have been taught in the particular teachings and videos. So I here need you to answer these questions. You can send them to me via the comment section, and let's see how well you fare. And I'll be also glad if you could subscribe. I need you to subscribe to my channel and to make your to write down your comments. Please make your comment as well, share, and I look forward to see you more in my next videos. Thank you so much, and God bless.